Welcome. Welcome to another live, everybody. We are going to discuss. This is the question tonight. Should the Obeah Act be repealed? And I want you to share your thoughts. If you're not here for the live, I still want you to go under the comment section and tell me what you think. Any questions you might have or any stories you might want to share. I think this is going to be in several parts because there's so much to talk about with this that it's not possible. I'm trying to keep this to 1 hour tonight. The question is, should the Obeah Act be repealed? What do you know about the Obeah Act? And for those of you who are very sensitive to this topic, I welcome you to join another live. Tonight, we are going to get into this and we're going to have serious discussion about Obeah, that word that is so feared. We're going to talk about why is this so feared. I don't think anyone, and this is how I am, I don't dismiss anything. I don't allow one person or a few persons to tell me that, this is a bad thing. As soon as you start saying something is bad and I should stay away from it, sorry, but I want to go and research it. I want to find out for myself what this is about. And like most Jamaicans, when you hear the word Obeah, you automatically go to this very deep, dark place. And people are not understanding that this was an African spirituality. This is what our ancestors knew from back in Africa. And when they were brought to Jamaica, for a while would practice it until a particular event occurred. Something happened, and suddenly the individuals who feel it was affecting them changed it. Okay, change it. I have some notes here. I'm going to go over my notes. I'm looking at the Obeah Law of 1898. So in 1898, and do your history, look at the slave trade, look at the abolition of slavery, and then decide for yourself what this Obeah Law means to you. I'm going to read a little bit of this, but you can do your own research. But for those who are going to join me later on, I'm going to read a little, and then you can catch up on your own, okay? So the Obeah Law, 1898, was a law that was passed in Jamaica, and it still remains in force. Hello, Ms. Baker, greetings. Thank you so much. Okay, you thank you very much. You're saying that you think I'm not well versed in the Obeah Act, but my opinion is the act should be repealed. Africans and their descendants have been doing fine with their spirituality. Absolutely, Ms. Baker. Absolutely. Some of the notes that I have on the side here, I wanted to make that point. Why did they suddenly rush to criminalize this? If you know, in our time, there are a lot of things that are criminalized, and suddenly, that is removed. Many things. I don't want to bring up certain groups in this because I want to keep it focused on this whole Obeah Law. But if you can think in your mind, what other things that were illegal or other people's rights were taken from them and their activities were illegal and is now restored to them? And why should it be a problem if now Jamaica says that they want to this Obeah Act or Obeah Law? On my notes here, the question I ask is, why did Obeah become a criminal act? How did it come to be in the first place? And there are many things pointing to that, but primarily, in my opinion, it was to silence the very feared African retention, African spirituality. And when people hear Obeah, we don't know anything about this, the majority of us. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but the typical Jamaican person, the typical person in the Caribbean, know very little bit about Obeah. They just hear the deep, dark sides of it, and they don't understand that there are many components to this spirituality. So, for example, it does focus on ancestral powers, right? And when you think about it, if you're encouraged as an African person to focus on African powers and African spirituality, you can imagine why people would fear it. Number two, drumming, dancing, spirit possession, ritual sacrifice, and herbalism. So, but most people don't know the other aspects of Obeah, or it first, actually, the religion itself or the spirituality itself is called Mayaism, and the typical Jamaican knows nothing about Mayaism. That is in what we would call religion, but it was a spirituality. So it was banned because it was a way to silence African retention. It was banned because it was a means of control. It was banned because it was to suppress the practice of Obeah. Okay. Now you don't have any similar laws in Jamaica as it stands that is like this, because you don't have any sex offenders act. You don't have any such laws that prohibits a person who even committed murder from coming out of prison and being free. And the law as it stands with this Obeah Act requires that individuals go to jail and then monitored when they come out. Okay, so it's a serious thing, and what is done is driven fear or a kind of, I don't know, hatred for all things African, because the moment you associate Africa with Obeah or with voodoo, you automatically get this, horrible feeling about Black people and their spirituality. Okay, there's a term that I wrote down before I came here. It's called tabula rasa, and it is an epistemological theory that individuals are born without built-in mental content. Knowledge comes from experience or perception. And so in our Caribbean space or in the African spaces, people fail to understand that all the things that you know about Christianity or any other religion is something that was put on you. I don't want to say forced, but that was introduced to you. And the question is, so what about our people? What did they worship? What was their spirituality? And how did it benefit them? And as I've said in previous videos, the idea that Obeah or Mayaism was used to free the African people. And as we know, as I know, not just from reading something online, but from studying this, from going in academic circles and understanding the power of what this holds, and knowing that there are individuals who are practicing this in everyday life that you and I respect, but they keep it hidden. They continue to show it as a deep, dark, dangerous thing for African people. And the typical person from Jamaica, even those who are practicing Obeah, are the first ones to come out. They're ashamed. They're ashamed. And I think by legalizing it, the shame would go away. But does legalizing Obeah, is it going to cause the island to go into chaos? Is there going to be demons falling all over the place? Because this is the kind of argument you're going to be hearing in the next little while. And I'm saying it will make no difference. Those who were practicing Obeah will continue to practice Obeah. Those who understood the secrets of the power of witchcraft and all the other stuff that is involved in the world, people are doing all kinds of stuff in the world. Yes, anything that a lot of people don't understand, they're going to demonize it. But the folks who made this a criminal act, they understood it. It wasn't fear; they feared it because it was used on them. So you look at Paul Bogo, the situation. You look at the Nanny of the Maroons. You look at the history and see how they defeated the British Army, and they used their African spirituality to do that. So the hatred for it of our people is because they don't really understand. But the ones who created the law understood it very well. Does anyone have any questions? I don't want to, I'm trying to resist the urge to be a teacher today. But if you have any questions, I have a few notes here that I want to talk about. I wanted to go online and I wanted to type in the Obeah Law of 1898 to see what that is. And I'm going to read a few of the things that were written in this law so that we can probably talk about it. So, for example, number 3, in this law, unless the context otherwise require, Obeah shall be deemed to be one and the same meaning as Mayaism. So, as I say, Mayaism is the spirituality. Sorry. A person practicing Obeah means any person who, to effect any fraudulent or unlawful purpose or for gain or for the purpose of frightening any person uses or pretends to use an occult mean or pretends to possess any supernatural power or knowledge, is going to be found guilty and will be charged. Number 4, every person practicing Obeah shall be liable to imprisonment with or without hard labor for a period not exceeding 12 months, and in addition thereto, or in lieu thereof, to whipping. So anyone who was found doing this would go to prison, but they would also be whipped, provided also that such whipping shall be carried out subject to the provision of 28 Victoria, and Victoria is the queen. So this is where it comes on chapter 18, and 29 Victoria, chapter 7, will be inflicted at a place to be named by the resident magistrate making the order. So this is put out there, put in the law to say if anybody is caught practicing this, they are going to be beaten and they're going to go to jail. Provided further that it shall not be lawful to order more than 18 lashes in the case of a person 16 years or older. So the law goes on to say at what age, if you're found practicing this, and you don't have to be found practicing it, but you see any is like what they would call now paraphernalia, anything that they think could be associated with this. You get how many lashes, and they have the age if you're below 12 years old, no more than 6 lashes, and if you're older than that, how many lashes you should get. So you see how this fear would be driven in people, kind of like the witch hunt in Europe, where anyone is found. Good night, Natalie. Anyone who's found practicing witchcraft in the UK or in Europe, some of these penalties. But when you look at it closely, a lot of these people were not doing anything wrong. Like you look at even the historical concepts of witchcraft and whatever, what some of these people were doing, they were healing. They were healing, but I think it's always a way to control people, whatever you're doing, because there's the powers that be always want you to, turn to them, and so they can mislead you and misguide you. And then they use the story, the truth, the facts, and they use it to build themselves and keep you in darkness. Question to those of you watching, 8 persons watching. Have you ever had an experience with Obeah? Have you at any point in your life feel that you've been attacked? So while I'm talking about this and I'm saying, yes, it should be repealed, I'm saying that because whether it's repealed or not, people are going to practice. Now, are there any authentic, Obeah people left in the Caribbean or left in Jamaica? Are there any individuals who actually understand these things? And I'm saying, yes, they are. But I think if you look at certain things, like for example, if you put the wrong tool in the wrong person's hand, imagine what they can do with that. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're the person who is entering into the practice of witchcraft or nihilism for gain or greed or whatever, imagine what these individuals can do. And don't think that this whole Obeah or witchcraft or whatever is something in a fairy tale. Some people say, oh, I don't believe in it. Does that mean because you don't believe in it, it doesn't exist? Does that mean that it doesn't exist because you don't believe in it? It doesn't make any sense. And I think that's one of the biggest things. The biggest problem Black folks have with the idea of Obeah, or when they hear people try to explain it to them, or revivalist, or there's another expression that they use, Pocomania. The first thing they think of is the evil aspect of it. And they don't realize that within every religion, when you talk about sacrifice, look at Christianity itself. You see many stories in the Bible about Abraham about to sacrifice his son. People go and they have blood offerings and whatever in the Christian text. But when it's shown in Africa, it's a big problem. People panic. Good evening, Soweto. People panic. So have you ever had an experience with witchcraft? Do you think anyone has done anything to kind of stifle your growth, anything to hurt you or anybody in your family? Oh, really? Not too long back in Antigua, I believe a government official was punished for just having Florida water. Wow. I was just talking about that today with someone about the Florida water, because I didn't know that people knew of that in Jamaica. But I know in the States, for example, a lot of the people, the Africans that were brought there through the slave trade, continue to this very day understanding the use of Florida water. If this was such a powerful tool during the period of slavery, and they were able to use this to free themselves, imagine how angry those masters would have been, because it was used directly on them. So the story is that when the Maroons, 90 of Maroons, after they were in the hill, after they escaped and decided that they're going to be free and there's no way they're going back to bondage, the slave masters sent out troops after troops after troops up to the hills, the Maroon Hills, to catch these individuals, but they couldn't. The story is, and it's true, because there's historical text to support this. When every time they would send a battalion of 100-person, Nani and her group of free people would defend themselves, and they would kill everybody save one. They would always send one person back to tell the news, send more, and they would send more, and they would send more. The Maroons got their freedom because they had tactical tools and measures that they used, learning from their roots, their African roots. And they understood that they couldn't defeat them. The Europeans, the British people, could not defeat 90 of the Maroons and the people who escaped, because they used it. And that's what I have a big issue with. I want to know more. As I've said before, when I find out this is what was used to free my people, how could I, as an African person, have bad things to say about that I don't understand? And how could I think that a religion that is introduced to me by someone else, and then tell me that I should hate my people because they were devilish, or they were barbaric, or anything you can think of to describe how they view our spirituality. To this day, it's not much different. Obeah has been used as a threat to individuals by other individuals. Absolutely. But so is everything. There are countries in America, for example, where guns are given to individuals to protect themselves. And individuals can go out and apply for a license, and you have persons using their guns to intimidate people. You have law officers and persons who are put in a position to protect and serve use it. So how is Obeah any different? Now, here's the thing, Natalie, that I'm saying. If we all understood that people had the power, or understood how to use their African spirituality to harm other person, if we had spent time to know that Obeah was not just about someone trying to obey you or trying to kill you, but it was about drumming, it was about dancing, it was about spirit possession, it was about ritual sacrifice, it was about herbalism. If you understood that, then you would know, oh, I'm going to learn this. How can I protect myself? So someone can throw some blows at me, but knowing that someone Obeah me and just fold my hands and say, oh my God, I don't want to know, because it was already demonized in your mind, and everybody else around you tell you how evil it is, and other folks are doing things to destroy you. A lot of governments around the world knows how to use certain systems to control people. And so if you choose to say, oh, well, I don't want to be a part of this because it's evil, when you're being used, you're being controlled by the very thing you're fighting against. You're waiting for, as you would say, God to come and deliver you. But God give us, the trees and the plants, the herb is for the healing of the nation. And if someone is doing evil to me, and there's a way for me to free myself from this without going on the dark side, I would want to know. So yes, it's been used as a threat, just like anything else though. And so we can't demonize it, because people are going to use their free will. People are going to use their free will to do good or evil. So saying that something is bad that is being used, there's a lot of things, a lot of examples I could give, that the stuff has benefit, but people use it for bad. So can we continue to deny that the reason why the Obeah Act, for example, came into being was because individuals who got defeated by it and feared it suddenly criminalized it, suddenly cast this great shadow. That's why you have so many Black people Still to this day, when you hear Africa, the first thing they think is evil. Our own people, how can you, in your right mind, not realize that something is wrong with that picture? Where did we get this idea that all things African is bad? And our African spirituality, or these, devilish things that our ancestors used to do, we had to be freed from it, and we have to be taught, about God and about everlasting life. I have been attacked several times, like many times. People using Obeah against me. And so you would think, okay, well, if that happened to you, you should hate it. No, I don't hate it. I want to understand not the levels that they've gone through, but how to protect myself. I would want to know more. When I know that it's the effort of slave masters in the past, because it wasn't our people that said it was wrong or evil. It was the slave masters who came and said that this is wrong and that is evil. And they put, you see, anything people fear, they often criminalize. Or anything they fear, they demonize. So they demonized it. And it really bothers me that I'm saying, why would African people not want to know and say to themselves, how would God create a whole continent of people and allow them to go down? Because people are saying, no, they chose. How could Europeans be the only one with the concept of God that is correct? Just think about that. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so Maoism is a religious practice, and that was a Jamaican spirituality. They say religion, but it was really spirituality with African roots. And it, like I said, it entailed drumming and dancing, spirit possession, and ritual sacrifice. Of course, for us in the West, we don't know anything about those things. But if we grew up in the culture and saw this on a regular day, for example, I've seen a video where someone stole something in a community and they started beating the drum and they started doing their practice. And before you know, that thing that they were holding up to find out who was the one who stole that thing, they found out, it reacted with this person who was guilty. The same thing was there in Jamaica too. I don't know if any of you know about it, about the Bible and key. If someone stole something or if someone was lying, individuals who understood this would hold the Bible and the key. And when they call a particular person's name, if the person was guilty, it would spin, and people swear by this thing. Yeah, welcome, Chaddy. Welcome, welcome. What's your input? I'm talking tonight about asking the question if the Obeah Act of 1898, I think, should be repealed. And many people are very fearful that if Obeah ever gets legalized in Jamaica, more people are going to die. And I think that doesn't make any sense, because the truth is, when it's whether it's illegal or it's not illegal, people are still going to be practicing. Those who understand whether it's a devil ritual, it's not that. Can you explain that to me? Are you saying it is, or you're saying it's not? A fire is not that culture. Explain some more for me. Exactly, Charlie. It made no sense in the first place, but understood that the ones who put it in place, it makes sense, because if you get defeated in such an embarrassing way, I mean, you have a huge army and you send this huge army. Remember, they don't look at Black people as anything else but garbage. They were not even seen as human beings. That's why they were put on plantation and whipped and all that. And then if you're looking at these people and saying that they're not human beings, and you're saying that they're, backward and whatever, and then they're defeating your army, come on. They would have been very angry, very upset. Repeal it, what I tried to do. Are you saying the devil ritual is not that culture? Repeal it, what I tried to do. Not quite sure I understand. If anybody understand what Dose is saying, repeal it, why I try to do harm to others. Whether it's legal, that's my position tonight. Whether they legalize it or not, it's going to operate. So it's like abortion. And I think abortion is still illegal in Jamaica. but people are still having abortion. There, for a long time, marijuana was illegal in Jamaica, and people had huge farms of marijuana. People didn't stop because it was illegal. People continued to do it. Who can educate us on the good of Obeah? Unless we are the Baptist faith or Risha or Shango. But Natalie, the thing about it is, if you want to know, you have to have an open mind. I think the Spirit understands the individuals who have an open mind. So I have never gone to any school in terms of going to practice witchcraft or people use them simultaneously. I've never done that, but I got introduced to it. I might have a dream. I got up and said, wow, what is that? Where did that word come from? And I looked it up. And when I looked it up, it was leading me to something that sometimes I'm scared. When I see that, I would jump back and say, wow. And then something else would happen. And then I got very curious. Why don't Africans, some of these comments are not it's not going up. Let me see if I can close that. Okay. Why don't African system have schools to teach African spiritual systems like witchcraft to teach and train in your craft? We have online classes and extensive books on the subject. Yeah, on the subject. But and again, too, who is writing these subjects? Who is really writing some of these books? Can you really pay attention to this? There are all these high priestesses and these individuals who say they're bringing in people. But truthfully, can I say this to you? I don't think every person. I think it's a spiritual thing. I don't think everyone can just study a book and practice witchcraft. I think we need elders who have been doing this for years, years and years, for decades. I think the abuse is going to come from individuals having greed, for individuals not understanding it. And I think people who indulge or engage in Obeah and don't understand it and are not led by spirit, because the spirit can teach you. And you can resist saying, I don't want any part of this. I don't want nothing to do with this. The spirit will lead you and teach you. And in some cases, I think there are individuals who are chosen who run from it for years, who want nothing to do because it's demonized. But yet they're led in it. They are called to that practice. It is a spiritual practice. And people will go out there and study books. I personally wouldn't want to be taught by a human being. I would want to see how the rituals are done. For example, I took a course and my professor was from Haiti, and he showed us things, like, for example, if you want to, for example, remove spell from you, this is what's done. That I appreciate, but the secrets, I think those have to be revealed to you. And I think those who are true practitioners, those secrets are revealed to them. It's not something that you learn and read in a book. It's something you have to understand. We are spirit beings, and spirits are around us, and they talk to us all the time. But because some of us are, if you are prejudiced, or if you are stubborn, or if you say you already demonize the thing. Because imagine if you have a friend, well, you don't have a friend, you have an idea that somebody who's Rastafarian is dirty, or Rastafarian is evil, or has a black heart, or whatever, as they used to say back in the day. When you have this in your mind, when you meet a Rastafarian, no matter what they show of themselves, you still hold these, judgmental thoughts in your mind. You still have these prejudice towards a person, and so you're not able to see through that. And I think the spirit is not interested to come and reveal itself to anybody who has these kind of negative feelings. You have to be open to learning. Which you're removing the comments, so I'm not able to read them, Dose. So in terms of who can educate us on this Obeah thing, pray about it. Seek. In the same Bible, people say, seek my face. Try to find out about the history, do your research, and meditate, ask to be led. I don't know about the morning ground, Natalie. You want to tell us a little bit more about that? Okay, get to know the Almighty Creator. Do you know the Almighty Creator and who is the devil? Who is the creator and who is the devil? Because based on the scripture, because we can talk about this, those things. Based on the scripture, it says that Satan was thrown out of heaven, and 1/3 of his angels came to earth. And then the same scripture says that Satan was going back and forth to heaven. So that means God and our Jesus and Satan would have been friends, because in the scripture it says that Satan, although he was thrown out of heaven, went back to heaven and told God that Job was only nice and was only obedient because he blessed him. And God was having a conversation with this devil who he threw out of heaven and say, okay, then, he is going to be obedient to me. He's going to be faithful to me. So I'm going to allow you to go down there and make bad things happen to him. It would have been like to spell on this man Job, and see if he won't still remain faithful. And so Job lost his family, lost his wealth, all his children dead, killed by Satan, because Satan and God made this arrangement for Satan to go and provoke the angel, the man who was a faithful worshiper, a faithful servant to God. And so Satan go back and forth and say, yeah, look at this, he's only worshiping you because you're doing nice things to him. And God said to him, okay, go down there and do whatever you want to do to him. And to the very end, he kept saying, no, it's because, because this is because that. And God consistently said to him, okay, go ahead and do things to Job, to the point where he got him where he was sick and he was pretty much dying. And his wife, tell him to curse God and die, but he was a faithful man. Listen to me. When you're going to talk to me about Christianity and try to use that to demonize, you better come good, Dose. Because, I know my Bible very well. And I also see what it has done to African people. No one can tell me that Christianity is a better thing than or African spirituality. None. Because everything that they have done in Africa is also done in other places by different names. Tell us more about the Almighty Creator, Dose. Tell us more, because what you're doing is speaking the word the expression that I used earlier on was tabula rasa. You are just regurgitating the stuff that's taught to you, and I'm not upset with you, because for many, many years, that's what I thought too. The belief system that you came is what is introduced to you, and it came from a very prejudiced place, because see, you're brainwashed to think that this is the truth. How could the truth, and I don't have my scripture, how could the truth, how could be the whole story of the universe hold in that small book? Does that make any sense? How can that be? If the Bible itself was just talking about animals, we would have some huge, the book would have to be huge, bigger than this house. How can the truth about the universe, about, God and earth and heaven be contained in that little book? So most time when people talk about Obeah, they just go over to Christianity to try to delete or, stigmatize African spirituality. Why someone else's religion is better and ours is worse? Why theirs is good and ours bad? Where did that come from? Because they got their butts kicked and they had to demonize the thing so we can hate it, so we could use it against them anymore. And that's why we're in the position that we're in today. Exactly. Anywhere Christianity exists upon Africans, slavery and exploitation existed. Yes, it is. It is. It was magic in Egypt. And again, see, when you hear the story about Egypt, you don't even understand the distortion in that. They make Pharaoh sound like a wicked man. But Egypt belongs to Africans. Egypt is in Africa. They have used the story of our royalty and make it evil. So even the whole story about Moses throwing down his rod, and they went there in history. It's shown. You can do your own research that the people from Greece, from Rome, from wherever in the world, they went to Egypt and learned, sat at the feet of our great kings and leaders, and theologians, they call them here, but these philosophers, and learned and took the stuff away and used it for their own betterment. Well, you're saying the Bible is fake and the Bible is lie. So where you learn all these things, though, say, because the stuff that you're talking about seems to come straight from the Bible. That's all devil work, voodoo devil work. Whatever you say. Again, what I was saying earlier before you came is that there are many aspects to nihilism, or Obeah as you call it. There are many aspects to it, just like with the same Bible. Oh, I don't have it here, but I have a book, and it's just Psalms. And I'll probably do this in another video. It's all Psalms, all the Psalms, and how these Psalms must be used. It's Christianity. That's a Christian text. And it tells you all the Psalms and what you use them. They use them to kill people. They use them to for wealth. The Psalms. So the moment you get that out of your mind, that is just the African spirituality has the power to do good and bad. Well, not good, because they never ever present it as good. They present it as all bad. The Bible, and I will show it to you, showing you individuals putting it together, taking Psalms and telling you how to read some Psalms for protection, how to do evil with it, whatever, the scripture. Okay, so come again. Why aren't no Black people in Egypt? For the same reason why Black people are in North America and in the Caribbean. Same reason. Satan can never bring message to the Almighty Creator. The Almighty Creator knows everything. Well, then tell them to stop telling people this lie, because it's in the Bible saying how Satan went back and forth to heaven having a conversation with God about why he should destroy his servant Job. Yes, I think it's called Power of the Psalms. I think so, Natalie. So religion, and see, we didn't practice religion. It was an African spirituality. Again, that involved dancing, drumming, spirit possession, ritual sacrifice, and herbalism. Now, in other religion that I see, I don't see the component of herbalism. That seemed to be pushed down, but that was the biggest part of nihilism. Our people use the natural herbs. They were able to look at we didn't have clocks. We didn't have these things. They were looking at the sun. They could tell direction. They could tell time. They could communicate using nothing but the elements, natural things. How could that have been a bad thing? Okay, we'll talk about that, Natalie. How could that have been a bad thing? So my question to you is, have any of you been under spiritual attack? Of course you can. Of course you can identify. Yeah, there's spirit. We're spirit beings, and these entities are around us. And I think I tried to explain at one point, anything that makes you very angry and very cross is not a good spirit. Anything or anyone who comes to you and evokes this kind of rage and anger within you, it's not clean spirit. It's not. The spirit of what you would call God would be something that is peaceful, that would take fear away from you. If you're feeling fearful, if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling rage, that is not good spirit. Has anyone ever felt that they were under spiritual attack? There was someone who wrote me today, and she's not here, Joe. And I can tell you, I have experienced it. A lot of times I hear people saying, oh, I don't believe in Obeah. I don't believe in witchcraft or whatever. And truthfully speaking, these individuals are the ones who indulge in it the most. It's like a mirage. They don't want you to know that they're involved in this thing. Blessings. Welcome, Anointed Royal Strong Maroon. What do you have to add to this conversation tonight? We're talking about, should the Obeah law be repealed? And the question for me is, why do you think they'll be thinking of doing that now? Why? I'm saying my theory, and I might be wrong. The prime minister that recently passed away in Jamaica was a revivalist. And do you know what a revivalist is? When I was about 17 years old, I remember watching TV and watching him. Okay, we'll talk about the Nali. I was watching the prime minister at an event that was hosted by this woman called Queenie. And this is Kumina. And what I remember is seeing the first time I was introduced to something and heard that was Obeah. I saw them standing around a table that was well dressed, and the lights went off, and when they turned the lights on, I could see rice splattered all over the place. The prime minister was there at that event, rice all over the place. And when the person was interviewing them asked what happened, they said that when they prepare that meal, the spirits come and they consume of this meal, and then the folks who are there participate in it. So they're feeding the ancestors first, they participate, and then they eat. Well, of course, growing up in Jamaica and hearing that, you're terrified and you're thinking the worst thing. But the prime minister was there. Not only did he practice, but he studied this thing. He was not afraid of it. And that's the thing. A lot of Black people are afraid of their own African roots, and they have no questions. And everything they hear someone say about it that they don't understand, they buy it. They said, why wouldn't you ask a question? Why are you fearing this thing so badly? What is it about it? Why you spend so much time saying that this is evil, convincing me that this is not good? It would make me more curious. That's how I am. Okay. You've had Obeah done on you? Me too. So I know that this exists. But because someone chose to do something evil to me, that doesn't mean that everything else that is associated to this spirituality is bad. Egypt is in Africa, of course. Are you Muslim, Dose? Because your name seemed like you're from the Middle East. Obeah does work. It had a time in my dream. Every time I'm to come into lots of money, someone would come in my dream and beat me. Of course, because the spirit is trying to teach you something. The people in high places of course, not sometimes, they all use it, anointed, royal, strong maroon. They all bless up mind over matter. How are you? I'm hoping you come here and share with me your thoughts about the appeal. And you don't have to say you agree with it if you don't, because I understand it's not a problem if you say, I'm against it. And I think a lot of people are against it because they don't understand it. And I don't blame them. If Obeah work, why African is the last place on earth to be free? Because they're not practicing. They're moving away from the tradition. They have moved away from it because remember, the Caribbean areas are not the only places that were colonized. Africa was too. And remember, Christianity was introduced to Africans. You have people from Africa who are Catholics. So, and to this day, you see all these African movies showing you how, the Christian person was attacked by the Obeah person, and how in the end, those movies always end with, the Christian person being freed and some horrible fate falls the African. These are all indoctrination. What is the spirit trying to teach me by beating me out of wealth? Maybe it's not someone else is doing it. Maybe you're the one that's doing it. You're the one who's constantly doing something, because some of us, we do things without even knowing, inadvertently. That is stopping our blessing. That's blocking our blessing. Something is going to happen and we manage to find a way to do something that, brings it away. And again, our mind is powerful. And what we think is what we achieve. So if we understood the basic things, if we understand how to command the universe, it sounds crazy. But if we understand that they're at our beck and call, you're leaving your house. Think about it. You're leaving your house. You have an appointment. You go to the door. And when you get there, something says to you, you say, my mind says, go back and get this. And when you go to your appointment, that's the first thing they ask you for. This happened to me. I can share stories and stories and stories. So I respect other person's views, even when they say, oh, Obeah is all evil. But I'm saying to myself, what is Obeah? I was asked the question, what is Obeah? And why is it evil? And how did you get to see and understand it to be something that's evil? And if you're going back to this law that was created by Europeans who got flogged and who couldn't challenge the Maroons and had to listen, this is the thing about Europeans too. If they can't beat you at your game, they will join you. If they can't dismiss you, they would learn how to, they show you respect. Unlike Black folks, we don't learn how to love and respect each other. But folks, understanding who you are when you stand up for yourself, you'll end up getting respect. The mighty creator never tell anyone to write a Bible. Okay, so mind over matter, are you still there? I've come late into this, but it's a catch-22. Jamaicans mainly use Obeah to X people and not to help themselves and others. Yeah, because guess what? Unfortunately, it's appealed to the lowest part of them. So the person, most of these individuals want to use it to get rich. And if they were doing that, honestly, Jamaica would be a wealthy place. But remember, a lot of these people are using witchcraft. They get a book and they study it, they say a few words, they conjure negative vibrations or spirits, and then they themselves are cursed because they don't know what they did. And at this point, it's going to be difficult to find an authentic person who understands this whole spirituality, because most of the elders who understood it, they're gone and they didn't pass it on. They were fearful at first and then they rejected because the younger people come up and already hear that this is evil and to they shun it and to stay away from it. So the older folks couldn't even get to impart it to the younger children because it was already demonized. They want to look exactly. They want to look at the people who are practitioners. You have to ask why a Christian government would do this. Exactly. Exactly. So when it's now legalized, you get folk. That's what I'm saying. The persons who are doing this, they're not stupid, because you're assuming that the people who are practitioners are those who are practitioners, who are just reading a text, who are not spiritually led to do this, they will be caught in that mess. But people who have guides who speak to them, who instruct them, who guide them, who teach them, who says turn left, go right, look up, look down, turn around, they can't be tricked. So you have to understand this is how I believe in it. I don't believe in someone coming to teach me. I'm saying if my spirit guides don't talk to me and teach me these things, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to read a book to learn about this. I must go to my bed and sleep or be wide awake. And the spirit says to me, go outside and pick this bush, or give me a name of a plant that I don't know. And when I research it, it tells me what it's good for. And guess what? That's the problem I'm having. Those are the individuals that know their stuff. A person who is a practitioner, who is actually working with good, clean energy and vibration and spirit, is going to know you. The person is going to look at you and is going to tell you what's happening to you because you're going to feel it. So if you walk into my room with me and you're sad, right away I'm going to know you're sad. You don't have to tell me you're sad. The moment you go to someone who claims that they're a practitioner and you are, they know you're coming before you come, because the spirit guides teach them. So as someone said, Travis says, it's a way of fleshing you out. It's like telling people to bring in guns, come guns in exchange for whatever. It's to see who have these guns. It's to monitor these individuals, really. Because until you say I'm no longer a Christian nation, how could you be saying I'm going to think? For one, they themselves are involved in it. They themselves know the true practitioners, so they wouldn't have to do this. They have been going to these practitioners for years, protecting themselves, giving themselves power, using it for good and bad. Doesn't want you to have the conversation, mind over matter. See, that's the thing. I don't want to read a book. I think it's very possible. And I asked some years ago when I used to attend church, there was a person, I don't remember her name now, but the person was writing these books, and I'm telling you, they're scary. Some people said when they were reading it, they experienced all kind of, supernatural things happening to them. And I was saying, and the person was writing the book as if they were denouncing witchcraft, denouncing Obeah and all these things. And I remember asking the pastor, I said, is it possible that someone could be writing these books in a way, in an underhanded way, to introduce it to people? So when they're telling you these things are happening and these things are evil and these things are bad, what they're actually doing is teaching people in a sneaky way. The only people that were using Obeah to help the country was Nanny of the Maroons and others for upliftment. Yes, they were using it to protect themselves and to drive out their enemies. But other folks have little glimpses of it and they choose to use it for evil when they could be using it. Some people use it for remedy, some people help it to heal. They're just like anything else. They're everything yin and yang. Everything has two value or two uses or two purposes. So even the good thing can be used for evil. That's what I'm trying to say. So people always automatically go, it's drumming, music, it's communicating with other people in Africa. They used to drum to communicate across the miles to the African, to their brothers and sisters in Africa, so they could hear messages being sent. It was dancing, it was entertainment. We just jump from that, Obeah, we hear Obeah and we hear killing, we hear destroying, we hear all kinds of stuff. And now in Jamaica, you got advertisement on the TV or on the radio advertising Indian people who practice whatever it is that they practice. People, the government of Jamaica had no problem with bringing people from India and Pakistan and other places in the world coming there and having churches and saying, come here, we can heal you. Come here, you want a man. Come right in the open. But suddenly they're saying now, oh, we're going to repeal. Why didn't they think of that before they invited Indian people to come to Jamaica to work, whatever it is that they work? Because everybody else's faith and everybody else's religion is perfect except ours. It doesn't work because of what man still runs Jamaica. It doesn't work because the people don't want it. They reject it. The spirit will not, even if you are a Christian, if you reject the spirit of whomever you believe in, it's not going to come to you. It has to find a welcoming space. It has to know that I'm going where I'm needed, where I'm invited. So people in Jamaica are not, the typical Jamaican person think Obeah is evil and anybody associated to it, not understanding the roots of it, not understanding that it's a spirituality, not understanding that folks from other places in the world, for example, the former prime minister was a revivalist and, studied and practiced and, gained wealth and power from it. I've always seen Obeah as evil. My parents wouldn't even want us talking about it in the house. Exactly. But you can't blame them, Andrew. You couldn't really blame them because they knew the penalty. They knew the penalty of, being involved with this. Think about it. Think about it. If something is going to make you wealthy, and if you use it, you will not have to work for John Tom anymore. You think he's going to want to encourage you to, he's going to find ways to discourage you from leaving him. People who have people in bondage will never ever teach you how to come out of bondage. And if they realize that a spirituality, that if you understood it, you understood the power of it, if they didn't demonize it, slavery would have been abolished much longer than it did. Okay, so you don't do any religion. The religion can be divisive. You see, Obeah is not a religion; it is a spiritual practice, and it does exist, and it is real, and I have experienced it more than once. And the stories are very scary, very frightening. But prayer and learning more and knowing that I can protect myself from these things. And I continue to seek to know more. Exactly. Exactly, Travis. Can you really trust that? And most of what you see there is not Obeah, it's witchcraft. No, there's a store. And the next time I go there, I'm going to bring my camera with me. This is where I buy my candles. I buy my incense at this particular place. The last time I was there, and of course, there's a place in Toronto called the Occult Shop. Big, broad place. Everybody goes there. It's not, nobody is afraid of it. It's not owned by Black people. Big occult. and we don't see anyone demonizing. So where I get my candles or my incense when I run out is at this place, and I was there with my husband getting incense, and I overheard a conversation between the lady who was working. I don't know if she owns a store or, but she was working, and another female, and these were not Black people. And the female was asking her what concussion she needed. She was trying to make a portion to go and give it to a man because she was in love with the man. And I remember the lady at the counter saying, you know, I'd be very careful. Don't try to force people to love you because it will backfire on you. So while we're here denouncing some things in our culture, other folks are embracing it, and other folks are adding, you know, certain things to it. It might not be the exact thing as Obeah or, you know, what we were introduced to by our foreparents back in Africa, but people are practicing. This house that I live in is an example of a shrine, not the shrine that I built, but the ones who lived here before me. And as I live here, I would not make this up. I have encountered beings around me who's been here for years. And it's like, who are you? What you doing here? What are you doing in this space? Now, suppose I didn't understand certain things. Suppose I didn't understand that, you know, we are spirit beings and that I'm alive and that the energies are around me for me to command, I would run away already. I would move. That's not to say that I would never move. I'm just trying to say I'm not letting no unseen thing destroy me or chase me out of my home. But that's because I learned some things over the time, and I understand that fear, once you're fearful, that's when you get hurt. Once you understand yourself as a powerful being, people, human beings, and spirits alike have to contend with you. That's all I'm going to say for now on that. It's now that I'm in grown, I'm hearing different about it. It's in a good way, of course, because Andrew, the people were brainwashed into thinking it was evil, but they don't understand the folks who brainwashed them was doing it. Listen, if you look in the definition online, it says, what is Mayalism? It says a West Indian Negro cult, probably of West African origin, that believes in Obeah. So just the definition alone shows you a West Indian Negro cult. So everything that is associated to Africa or this kind of spirituality. Exactly, Gloria. People hear it, and I think folks who automatically run to it to think it's evil, sometimes I question these individuals because I'm thinking to myself, why did it not occur to you that, like all religion or all spiritual practices, there's good and bad? Why do you automatically, why is this thing evil when it's associated to Jamaicans or to Caribbean or to Africans? Remember, everything Black is evil. So therefore, the practices of Black folks would be considered evil. And the sad part for me is not that other folks say it's evil. It's that we do. We believe it. We promote it. We sing it. Anything in life, anything, even if it's a legal thing, people can use it for evil. People abuse their authority all the time. People abuse their knowledge. There are people who are educated. How can education be a bad thing? But people use their education to abuse other folks because they went to university and someone doesn't have the ability to speak the way they do. They, you know, when they want to win an argument, they tell you, oh, your language, you know, you need to speak better, or you need to fix your sentences, or when they can't attack you, they come and attack these foolish things. So anything can be used for evil. Thank you, Travis. When I was growing up, there was a book that we had in our household. It was a dream book. And the adults used to ask it questions, dreams. They would have dreams and they would look up the meaning of the dream. And I can't even tell you how this works now, but I remember it. And they would get answers. It was so creepy because there's a pattern that you use. Like, for example, if you're going to, let's say you were dating someone and you wanted to know if the person was the right person for you. You would have these strokes that you'd write, and you'd ask, like 5 times, is this person right for me? Is this person right for me? You do it in 5 lines. And then what you would do, you put, if they're even, when you mark them off, they're all even. Then you put 2 dots, and you look for the book in the back of the book to see whether that pattern that you did in the questions, where you would find it. This was real. And I remember folks asking what kind of a baby they're gonna have. And I remember when my aunt passed away, I asked someone, I said, whatever happened to that dream book? And the person said, oh, I took it. You'll never find that book again. And I don't know if she still has it, but this came right from the African tradition, right from the roots. People, but this individual who wrote it documented these things that they found in Africa. How you translate your dreams, how you could ask questions of the universe, but there were rituals, there were things that you should and shouldn't do. And if you didn't follow those rules, you could fall in trouble. This is why I say to people when they hear about Obeah, they're like, oh, can you tell me, more about Obeah? Because I want, be careful what you're getting involved with. Who are you inviting? What energies are you inviting in your space? You don't have the capability. For hundreds of years, they have demonized this thing. And unless you are guided by the spirit, then you're going to run into trouble. Are your people work voodoo? You're already in hell. Okay, whatever. Whatever you say, don't say. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Do things without harm to anyone. Yeah, just like Buddhists say, they try not to harm anything, animals or humans. I want to do or not do. Okay. We know it. We all know it. It's right here. You just don't. How can I put this? Okay. Take a look at this. Do you see what's on my phone here? Excuse my dirty screen. My kid's been playing with it all day. Do you see what's on here? That is how the spirit is talking to me. 2121. I looked around. My spirit said, look around. I look around. I see it. That's how I get my messages. That's one of the way I get my messages. So 2121. Numerology. Messages. This is how we get messages. Someone asked me today, I think it was Al Ferguson, said she found a feather on her window, and she was asking what it means. Someone would see a feather, you wouldn't think anything of that. Universe communicating with this lady, she's giving her a clue, that she's seeking something, and the universe is sending her a message to say, stay on the path, peace and neutrality. And Ferguson, what the spirit is also saying to you, that the answer you're looking for is not necessarily going to come as yes or no. It's not going to be so straightforward. The universe speaks in different ways, but you have to be able to recognize it. And it's not going to, my experience is going to be different from yours. I'm so happy I found that, but I'm going to look it up. And you guys can look it up yourself so that you can plan this. I can't plan this, okay? 2121, look it up and see what that means. And I guarantee you it's going to be spot on for every day for my 30 days of fast, when I was fasting and, reaching out and manifesting. Every day, every single day, I have my numbers to tell me what direction to go in that day, how to meditate, when to meditate, and things like that. Yes, Mahat. Yes, I agree. Our messages come to us, but because we're not taught. So instead of trying to learn how to do Obeah, you have to learn how to recognize the symbols and the spirits around you, how to communicate with the tree, how when the breeze blow a certain way, when the sun is set a certain time, and has Black people, our sun creatures, understanding that when we are talking about a God, we understand that for some of us who believe certain things, the sun is God. That's why you hear about Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Look at what those mean, where those things come from. The truth lies within that. Bless up, Leona. 921 military time. Africans are spirit people. We have forgotten how to read and sing. The writings is written on the wall of Egypt. Mahat, live right, do right. Absolutely. It's a spirit thing. And sometimes it amazes me. If I tell you stories, you have your hair curl, experiences that I have had. I have no, okay, I shouldn't say no because I've taken a few legal courses, but that's about it. And I have gone through the court system so many times, no choice of my own, no intention or will of my own, but things happen and I have defended myself every single time without a lawyer. And why is that? Serious case where people are afraid. I have had contacted lawyer that is afraid to go up against individuals that I have had to deal with. And on my own, I did, but I wasn't alone. That's why I believe I understand. I need to know more. So I'm not saying I'm some great philosopher and I understand. There's a lot I don't know. And if folks ask me a question and I don't know, I don't know. But I best believe you that if you are someone that my guides want me to teach something, you better believe that I'm going to know. I'm going to know. I'm going to see you in my dream. Yes, I'm going to see you in my dream. I'm going to see what you're going through. You just have to trust the universe and trust that we are more powerful than folks want us to know. Power in the wrong hand is dangerous. Like anything else, yes, people who need to know about it will learn about it. Those who don't need to know about it shouldn't know. But those who you think know about Obeah doesn't know about Obeah. For example, somebody goes to the store and buys poison and administer that to someone, and people say that is Obeah. That is not Obeah. That person just harmed somebody using a dangerous substance. Many of what you're saying is Obeah is not Obeah. It's just someone using their ability to use whatever they have around them to harm someone else. Sometimes people, go to people's house and make noise at their window or throw things on their ground. And because you're superstitious, you see somebody throw salt on your ground and you automatically say that is they're throwing Obeah powder on you, and that's not so. They've driven fear in you. So even when you look at this thing here, they did recognize that there are some people who were not really Obeah people. They were pretend. It says a person practicing Obeah mean any person who, to effect any fraudulent or unlawful purpose, or for gain, or for the purpose of frightening any person, uses or pretend to use an occult. Pretend. Many of these folks are pretending, and they're killers. They are just pure wicked. And so they're doing things, and people are thinking, oh, look, they work Obeah on me. They didn't work on Obeah, they poisoned somebody. That had nothing to do with any spiritual practice, or they pretend to possess a supernatural power or knowledge. They pretend. But these individuals, if they're pretending, if the folks who are going to them had sense, they would realize these are pretenders. Because if you meet a person who is gifted, who is a gifted person, you'd be terrified what they'll reveal to you. You probably would be afraid to even go ask for help because these individuals are very powerful. I find it very strange. A little after Siaga died, that the Jamaican exactly. Hello, let me read this. Let me read this to you. Let me read this. I'm so glad you brought that up because I forgot. I want to make the point. Listen to this. Obeah Law 1898 TNA Company 139-108. Okay, and this is provided by the National Archives in the UK. There it is. Okay, here's what it says. In November 2012, the government of Jamaica brought forward a law to amend the Obeah Act by removing the punishment of flogging. This was part of a wider policy to remove flogging from the criminal justice system. So it wasn't just about removing it from the Obeah law, but it was also to remove flogging from the criminal system. In the parliamentary debate about the bill, former Prime Minister Edward Siaga questioned the criminalization of nihilism by the act. However, under the revised law, both Obeah and nihilism could remain illegal and punishable with a prison sentence. But Siaga wanted to make sure that they decriminalize nihilism. That's what let's leave it at that. He wanted 2012 in November, he wanted that. And you know what? You remember how I said that someone can be bad and they always have good in them? Because if Siaga's death produced this thing where they're removing the criminal element from Obeah, well, then I'm saying he did good. He probably was honored that way because he was someone who never hid the fact that he was practicing. Revivalism was something that was very important to him. He was close to all the ones within Queen Beatrice, I think she was called. And I'm going to give you what I'm going to do tomorrow, if I can attach it here. If not, I do a short video, and I'm going to attach an interview that was done way back on stage with Mr. Siaga, talking about his connection to revivalism. And you can hear it out of his own mouth what he has to say. And his answer was very intelligent when the man tried to scoff at the fact that he was involved in Obeah. Look, you listen to Mr. Siaga's speech and understand that it's only Black people, only Black folks who are willing to allow folks to come and demonize their past, their ancestral memory, their history. We are so willing to turn our back on what is ours. It's terrible. How are they going to be in touch with their spiritual thing when they don't even want to acknowledge the fact that they're Black? You still hear Black people saying, if you're Black and ugly. You still hear people say your skin's clean and pretty after they bleach themselves. They say pretty clean skin, whatever. So there's so much. I don't, in our lifetime, we're not going to get to see people embracing. Now, if other folks around the world start coming out and promoting it on different news channel or media outlets and start putting it in their movies and start to celebrating it, oh yes, then we would want it. Exactly. So even this whole thing about, maybe it's just to hear what people are going to say that it's going to be legalized. And as someone earlier said, which is so profound, is like, is this a way of flushing out practitioners? I'm so glad they came up with that. So let's see what I had here. Yeah, they wanted to silence the African retention, because the question was, should the Obeah Act be repealed? And I asked someone, have you ever had any experience? Anybody else? Have you ever had any experience with, someone doing something to you, some kind of witchcraft or Obeah to harm you? How did you free yourself from that? And what saved you? How did you recognize this? I looked up 2121. Here's what it means. You are highly capable of shaping your reality in accordance with your will. It also marks a phase of inspiration, of awakening, as noted. Listen, absolutely. And I know there's never a time when I see it that is not speaking to something that I'm going through or something that I need to know. The messages are always there and they're always on point. On point. And this is how the spirits speak. Like, you, first of all, there's a part in the Bible, and I always go back to it because that's where we have either Christianity, or we hear about witchcraft, or we hear about Obeah, we hear about these different things that people denounce. But when you say it's okay in Christianity, because everything that we're demonizing is right there, text for text. If I were to say, okay, this is what Obeah is, everything that I'm talking about laid out, that practice is also listed in the Bible as well. Americans are already superstitious. I think the exposure to more spirituality through Obeah will cause more people to take advantage of. The fake spiritualists will come out and prey on people. They will, whether it's legalized or not. I was talking to my sister earlier, and that was her concern. And I'm like, whether they legalize it or not, as I said, before they legalized marijuana, people were still doing it. They have not legalized abortion, people are still doing it. And people are going to abuse it. Some women are using abortion like birth control. So you can have an abortion, so you just lay down with somebody, you don't use any protection, and you go and you abort it. And it's a freedom to choose. It's your own mind, your own body, whatever. People are going to abuse anything. Anything you can think of is going to be abused. It just depends on the individual. For me, and I'm making it very clear here, that any aspect of African spirituality or retention that I would be interested in would be in terms of healing, whether it be spirit, mind, and body. If somebody's under some kind of possession, and I would have the ability to release them from that's aspect I would be interested in. I wouldn't be interested to go and just use this tool to gain wealth, because there is a problem with that. If you're trying to gain wealth, but it's magic. So even if I know how to gain $1 million using magic, you can't really hold on to that. it's magic. It's going to disappear. So it's temporary. And I can tell you this without any doubt in my mind. People who practice this for greed or for monetary gains, they always end up losing everything, or they're always playing catch up, always trying to redo another spell, trying to catch up. It's just what it is. And who are you conjuring, and who are you inviting, and what are you asking them to do? Do you think these energies can be used without wanting something in return? This is why, if you're going to be a healer and you're going to be appealing to the energies and the spirits around you to teach you how to heal, then if it's asking you to heal yourself, that's a very good thing. So it depends on what you're doing. Whatever you're practicing, make sure that if that thing was reversed on you, you will be able to deal with the consequences. So if you're somebody who wants to hold a man, and you're going to use some kind of magic to hold a man, understand that when you do it, you're going to tie that man who's going to hate you. You can't get rid of him. You love him. You tied him to you, but because you use magic, he's going to be with you. He's going to beat you, and then you're going to want to release him, and you can't. Okay, so when we're being afraid for something that we don't understand, it's really silly. Find out more about what it is, and you are going to be the one to choose how you want to engage in this. So I want to know how to protect myself, because there's arrows that's flying by noon and day and whatever. There are things that are going to happen to me, that there are crossroads that I'm going to come to, that I need to make a decision on. And I'd like to be able to see what is the choice. What should I do? What way should I go? I would ask the energies or the spirit that when I go to sleep and I have a decision to make, help me make that decision. That's not harming anybody. That's not hurting anyone. That's not the part of Obeah that I am going to appeal to or seek to find out more about that is going to harm someone else. So it's the intent. That's what I wanted to say. What is the intent? And whether you like it or not, what is the intention? Whether you agree, whether you learn it, whether you want to, find out more about it, these things are going to happen with or without you. Yes, Beatrice. Beatrice, her name was, I didn't know her last name, but her name was Beatrice. I witnessed that myself. I was 17 years old. And he would always go to see this lady. And there was also another lady in St. Thomas. When she died, that funeral was filled with politicians. So the folks who are out there talking a bunch of nonsense, saying this and that, the very people that they're voting for are very deeply steeped in this. They might not practice it themselves, but they go to practitioners. So they kept it from the masses, and they use it to empower themselves and to control their people, just like the people who made the laws in the first place. That's what they wanted to. Here's another book that I got here. It's called Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. And these herbs tell you how to heal. These are the things that I'm interested in, not how to necessarily win the lottery or not to go harm anybody, because I understand in karma. I believe in karma. You do something to harm somebody, that is going to happen to you. You understand? Yeah, they make pacts. People are doing that. They hear about the Illuminati. These things are real things. You understand me? So we can't just make it seem like it's just black people. The Indian, Hindu, and I had a friend from, I think she's from India as well. And her husband put her out after he sponsored her. And she said that she wasn't coping very well. She didn't have any skills. She didn't speak very good English. What she did was she sent a message to her sister to go over some island. She says in their country, they have this island where you go and you stay there the whole night in darkness with spirits. And then when the person spent 24 hours there, whatever you ask them to do is done. She told me this prior to her doing it. And before you know it, she was back with her husband, casting spells and whatever. These things are real. You want to deny them and you want to make it seem like it's only black people who understand these things. You can use anything, no matter how good it is. You can still use that thing for evil. Of course they do, Anointed. Of course they do. I'm going to wrap up very soon. Thank you so much for joining me, Andrew. Mind over matter. I'm going to do a part 2 to this. Travis, Anointed Royal Strong Maroon. This is kind of a technical aspect of it, but next time I want to talk about experiences that I've had, things that people have done to me, and how I got freed from that using herbs, natural things. Never once going on my knee to pray for any harm done to anybody. Never trying to go to seek anyone to put back any kind of blow, as they say, to anybody, but understanding what is happening to me as it's manifest in my dream or in my wake up moment, to free myself and continue to face spiritual attack every day. Still face it. Because you know what? If you are a person who has the ability to see certain things, you're always going to be challenged. And if you're someone who have been able to pray for someone, to you dream things and you tell people and free them, you better believe that you're going to be attacked. You're going to be under some kind of attack at all time, because negative energies don't want you interfering with their work. They don't. They don't want you interfering with their work. They don't want you freeing people. There was a female that I know, and if she was on this, she could testify to that. And this individual used to be in her house, and some of what we're calling madness or insanity, it's actually spiritual attacks. People seeing things, and you're saying they're not seeing. You're not seeing it, but they are. So a lot of people with mental health issues are actually come up against spiritual attacks. Believe me. And so she would see these things. She's in her house. She see like a boar run through a wall and things like that. She would panic. She would always call me, and I would pray with her. And I remember one night after I prayed with her, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, this thing attacked me and said loudly, "Every time I go for her, I see you. I see you every time I go for her." I ended up moving out of my place and went to live at that same place with her. And now she's free. Okay, she's free from these attacks, because over a period of time, first and foremost, she was a very kind person and she was very obedient. Whatever she was instructed to do by the Spirit, she did. And that's why she's free. So a lot of us that are in bondage, we're not obedient. We're not obedient to the Spirit. Even when the Spirit reveals to us certain truth, we deny it, we denounce it, we mock it. Individuals will see a random person will come and tell you something about yourself that they couldn't have known, and you still fail to realize that. You fail to recognize it. The message shows up for you, it's on your thing, you see it, and you ignore it. I don't ignore these things. I pay attention to very minute things, and it's never failed me. You know what is very bad? When you do not know that witchcraft has been sent to you, and then when you find out, you don't know how exactly. You don't know what to do. You don't even know you think you're going crazy, and then someone who knows will tell you. Someone who knows what's going on will tell you, and even then you're still say, "Oh, I don't want to know." You think I'm going to know that somebody is doing harmful things to me, and I'm going to sit there and not want to know how to free myself from this thing? I'd be dead. And I'm going to give this last story before I go. When I was in university, my final year of university, I was friendly with this female. I graduated from university and I went back to get a second degree. And she was there the first time when I was getting my degree. Back in the day, you could just borrow the government's money and just waste time and drop your courses and still get money next year. So she was doing it. It was like a career for her. So I graduated, I worked for 7 years, and then I went back to get another degree. Because what was happening, I was in business before and I always got laid off. I always, whenever there's a recession, it affected me, and I had a family. So I said, well, let me change my career. So I went back second time to change my career, and I met her in one of my class. And one day she kept saying, "Oh, why do you want to go do?" Now I had 2 degrees before. Now I wanted a profession. So I said, this is why I'm back for a profession. She was taking a course with me, and I needed that course to apply for the program that I wanted in the other university. And anyway, she came to class the day and she handed me a magazine, just asked me to hold the magazine. And she said she was going to be right back. She stepped out and she never came back. When I saw her the next time, I said, "Oh, you left." She said, "I had an emergency. I had to go home." And I said to her, "Okay." And then I keep forgetting to tell her I have her magazine. I'm going to bring it for her. I got very ill to the point where I couldn't eat. I couldn't walk. I couldn't function. I kept calling 911. They had no explanation for me. There was an African girl that was in one of my classes that said to me, if you're going to the doctor and they're not finding out what's wrong with you, it's not physical, it's spiritual. Okay. Every time I tried to go in my bedroom, I would feel like I'm going to pass out. I didn't even recognize this until one day a friend invited me to come to her house. And when I was with her house, at her house, I felt like I wanted to do my assignment. When I'm in my own apartment, I can't do any assignment because when I read, I can't retain anything. I don't understand anything. But when I was at my friend's house, I sent my daughter to get my text and my thing that I was working on a paper. I wrote my paper in my friend's house. And when I got back to my house, I tried to take up the book. I couldn't see. I couldn't comprehend. So I realized something was wrong until the spirit said to me, okay, led me and showed me what happened, led me to that magazine that I got. So I used my brain, and this is no word of lie. I used my brain and I called her up and I said, you know what? You know, my spirit is leading me to think that someone did something to me. This First Nation man had told me that he looked at me, he came to my house because he was my neighbor and asked me for something. And he said to me, those things that you have on your bed, they're called grandfather stones. I said, what grandfather? They were stones that I collected. I love nature anywhere I go. So my students had given me a whole jar with stones. And he said, those grandfathers are protecting you. I said, what do you mean grandfather's protecting you? He says, there's something in your space that wants to hurt. It doesn't want to hurt you, but it wants to prevent you from doing something. I said, what are you talking about? Remember, this man live across the way from me. I see him all the time in the hallway. And suddenly that man comes to my house to ask for something and sees these stones in my bedroom. And so I called her. So I'm putting the pieces together. And I called this female and I said, you know, I suspect someone is trying to do something to hurt me, but I will not lift a finger, a hand to do anything to anyone. I'm just going to leave it to my guides. And she screamed out. She says, oh my gosh, I can't take pain. Did you hear me? She says, I can't take pain. What in that conversation would make her say this? Because she knew what she had done. So I said to her, oh, by the way, I have your magazine. I'm going to bring it for you. She says, no, 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 I don't want it. So I had my answer. I knew that she had done something not to harm me. And I hope she sees this, you know, not to harm me, but to prevent me from continuing with my studies. I learned that. And after I found that out, then I knew what to do and free myself. But prior to that, for months, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat. And the moment it all came to revelation and I knew everything, I was able to go on, complete my degree, graduate on top of my class. So these things exist. And I have many stories to tell. Stuff that my own relatives did to me. And here I am. So I'm saying that if the government of Jamaica decides that they want to know, let people understand that this whole thing, the demonization of African spirituality, have done more harm than good, and that it being legal is not going to cause any more problems in the country. People who are wicked, who are going to continue to poison other people, people who are, you know, envious or bad mind, as they say in Jamaica, will continue. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're legalizing Obeah. That is just nonsense. The witchcraft is sent to them by bad mind, wicked, evil heart, jealous people that they know exactly, but also too, they're generational curse. They're individuals who have spells that is being cast on them, but they're also families who have been indulged. So sometimes you're seeing people having some wretched death in Jamaica. You don't understand that it's stuff that their parents did or their foreparents did. It doesn't have to just drop on you, the person who did it. It can happen to your children because of what you've done. Someone asked before, I think it was Joe, said that she was asking her family if they had done or engaged in any witchcraft or anything evil. And they said no, but she doesn't understand that our parents doesn't have to. Their parents could have. Their parents could have been indulged. Yeah, I figured it out, but it's not of my own will. It's the guys who wanted to teach me, but guess what? They could have taught me right away, but they chose not to. They wanted me to experience it first. And then when I get delivered from it, so I could not walk around the prejudice that some people walk about around with. So sometimes bad things are happening to us because it's preparing us to teach or to lead, you know, or to heal. I don't think some people say catch the wrong people. Maybe it didn't catch the wrong person. Maybe the person who fell on was supposed to have that so that they can be taught certain things. And then they say, okay, some people they work Obeah on people and they die. Well, I feel like anyone who find themselves in bondage, if you're a good person, you will be freed. You might not be able to free yourself, but someone else will free you. Someone else will. Yes, I have a relative that is obsessed with destroying me. I have no clue why. This must be generational. It could be. It could be. These attacks are real, and your family, sometimes people sacrifice their own family. Your parents could put something on you, thinking that they're protecting you and they're doing evil. Because who are they bringing you to? They bring you to some person, and the person bathe with what? And what are they putting on you? And what are these words that they're saying over your life? And also, our the power of the tongue, you're also putting witchcraft on yourself as well. Yes, I have a relative that is obsessed with destroying me. Okay. Close this. Mind over matter, you're right. The most churches to Obeah. There, of course. A lot of these places, like I said in a story before, I went to the church and they were there up in the line, going one by one, and they were, falling out, and they were using magic on the people. And in some cases, they're putting chloroform on their hand, touching you, you're falling out, not knowing what's happening to you. This thing is very deep, it's very complex. We can't cover it in one thing. But I'm saying, why did Obeah become a criminal act? And I'm saying it was banned to control people. It was suppressed because if you silence people, if you drive fear in individuals, they will stop. They'll run them underground. Anything that people want to take and control, they often demonize, to be honest with you. And so all the things that have been banned, all the things that are banned now, eventually is going to be, people are going to be allowed to practice it when it's convenient to the ones who ban it. Wow. Yeah, and some of the girls that are being killed, man over matter in Jamaica, it's actually rituals that are practicing in Jamaica with some of these girls, sex rituals, but when you see these things happening, it is not good. It's going to be dark magic. It's black magic that is being used. People trying to do get wealth, people fame, and people are trying to get power. They do all these things. So Obeah can't just be defined as just this one thing. It is complex. There are many aspects to it. And people, based on the fact that we're human beings and we have different drives and different aims and different ambitions, we are going to go after the thing that we seek that is going to give us what we desire, pretty much. When you get back to your spiritual system, it can be controlled. Exactly. Exactly. So Haiti is I love what you're saying, Travis, because in Haiti, they might still be poor, but they're not controlled. They can't manage them. And if you look at how Haiti has suffered, they have ensured that these individuals not gain financial power or strength because they're imagining if they got financial power and strength and they understand how to manipulate nature. Whoa, what we got here would be very scary for a lot of people. And there's a lot of folks in the world who have done wickedness and continue to do wickedness, but they don't want you to know how to free yourself from them and their wickedness. You understand? I think I'm going to go now. I think I said enough. Right now, I feel like I'm about to get a migraine. I'm going to go, everybody. My eyes are acting up. Anointed Royal One, VW Travis 42, Mind Over Matter, Andrew, Gloria, Soweto, Dose, even though we have difference in opinion, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Natalie, hope I haven't missed anyone. Soweto, thank you so much for joining me. Stay blessed, everybody. We'll have another discussion, and maybe next time people can call in and share their stories of how they have faced spiritual oppression or attack and how they free themselves. But I'm leaving here saying that it's about time. It's about time, and whatever reason they're using it, whatever purpose they have or intention to remove it and make it a legal thing, well, let the Spirit lead us and guide us. Stay blessed, everyone.